right. Welcome back to the Rise, Grind, Repeat podcast. I am with a good friend now, Matt Zinman. He is a personal success trainer and new author of Z-isms. Matt, it is fantastic to have you on this podcast. And, it's interesting because Synchronicity has been part of my journey, and we'll get to that maybe when we talk about chapter 10. But you're coming to me at the right time here on this podcast, because this book speaks to me in so many different ways. Especially the journey I've been on over the last 2 years. But let's get right into it, and let's talk about how you came up with the book, and go from there, and talk about maybe earn confidence right off the bat.
All right, that's a good start. Well, a good start is, oh my God, I'm so psyched to be here, Joe. Looking forward to the time with you here today, and you're absolutely right. You better stay in touch. It doesn't end here. So we're fellow hockey players, so we got that going for us.
Absolutely.
Thanks for reading the book, and just I'm just really honored to be here and to hear the nice thing you have to say. And starting with why I wrote the book and how that came about. Just a quick background on me, and I'm from Philadelphia. I'm just north of there now. And I went to Temple University here, and I continued my hockey career through that experience. Went into journalism and public relations. I worked for agencies for about 10 or 15 years, and started my own in 2002. And then my life kind of converged there. I divorced, and my son was 2 at the time. So there was no more work and home. It was everything comes together. It's been blended ever since, which I wouldn't trade for the world. And he's 19 now, right? So I did that for a few years, and I started a nonprofit called the Internship Institute, and basically setting up internships for employers and making sure that they don't stink. And then the book has come about through something I've been wanting to write it for like at least 15 years, honestly. And as you know, part of it culminates with defining your why and achieving that, and lots of questions throughout in the personal conversation style of the book. And in turning it back on myself, it was, what would I regret not doing? That was really the big question that got me in gear. And even at first, it was just more of an exercise, like, there's these concepts like earn confidence and things I really feel are unique to my personal experiences. And I feel a responsibility as part of writing the book to get out there. But then I wrote for the better part of 2 days. And I was like, oh, I got it. It's done. Oh, no, not even a year later now. Right. But it was as if I went too far. Like I can't turn back now. That's really what happened for me there. And then I just put my head down since then. And I just am so grateful for it to be out and to have these conversations, and to have your listeners join us here and talk about it. So thank you.
Yeah. And I was going to say, the timing really couldn't be perfect with what's going on. And obviously that's, that's not to diminish what is going on, but I think this book can help a lot of people, especially, if you're home with not, you've been binge watched everything you can right now. And this is a great read, and can help so many people. Even if you only take the earn confidence nugget out of it, if you don't mind, like the take, it gives us an excuse. This is the takeaway from me, and I'll let you kind of take a deeper dive in it. But it's this earn confidence it's kind of twofold, where you allow yourself to give yourself an excuse and a break when, we worry all the time about the future. And 99% of the time that doesn't come to fruition. So, the earn confidence is to say, hey, listen, you've been wrong before, so in 9 times out of 10, it comes out better. The outcome comes out better than you had planned. So take all that history you've had as, earn confidence to know, hey, you don't always get it right when you're worrying, so that was kind of a nugget I took out of that, but I'll let you kind of dive deeper into
thanks.
that. Yeah.
Actually, you gave me a really good idea. It's kind of the positioning for the book. It's when you can't binge watch anymore, turn to Z-isms,
Yes.
insights to live by. Like, you've had enough of TV.
Yeah.
What now? I like it.
Yeah, and we don't watch too much here unless it's with the kids. So especially the news, but we'll get into all that stuff.
Yeah,
too,
no,
but.
for sure. So you're right. The book's grounded in earned confidence, and it provides the foundation for the rest of the book as it builds up. And you described it really well in that we've been through everything we have in our lives, and we're still standing. Right. So whether you're young or otherwise, everyone's been through a lot, and it's just a great reminder. Why would you worry or be anxious or stress about things that haven't happened yet? And just deal with the real, because you have that earned confidence to know it's what you've always done. It's what you'll always do, as whether you have a choice or not. Right. We're survivors. We find a way, and that's just really a good way to anchor. And the same thing with it goes gratitude. So to your point, a lot of people are in the habit of worrying. Babies are not born worriers. So you have a habit to break here. And a great way to do that is you might not be able to stop work. If you can stop it in its tracks, that's great. Just remind yourself. But let's say that you worried about something and then it never happens. And that's when you have to stop and look back and be like, well, what did I do to myself with this? What did I do to other people in terms of expressing that worry? Because that's a lot of negativity, and it gets into that, personal responsibility that we have around that transference of energy that happens when you go neg, right? We all know that, but we're back to mindset and mindfulness on this point, but it matters so much. And it's about your own life enrichment too, and staying in the present, with gratitude.
Yeah, and I'm taking the look on the positive side of that as well. You give 3 examples, 3 defining moments, and which I can relate to. One, you took a puck to the face as an 8-year-old playing hockey, and you kept going. You could have stopped, but you kept going, and you look back on that now, and as a source of strength where. You could easily packed your bags and said, I don't want to play anymore, and I don't want to be at this camp, and you push through it, and it's like you can relate back to that as a point in time where you had that success, and you can build on that. I had kind of a similar situation when I was 12 playing hockey, not where I got hit, but where I, and again, I'm sure as a kid you also played street hockey or road hockey, and
For sure, yeah.
and you pretended to score the game-winning goal or whatever. And
what do you mean pretend? I scored the game-winning goal every time.
So well, to your point, when I was
kidding,
when I was 12, I did score the game-winning goal for my Pee Wee team, and it gave me, and I was like a third line player at the time, but it gave me, it was heading into my freshman year. So after scoring that goal, it gave me the confidence over the summer. I performed very well in the summer camp, and then I ended up making the varsity high school team as a freshman. But before that, I don't know that I would have had that confidence to, really play as well as I did over that summer, and then heading into the hockey tryouts.
It's right. And it's easy to lose touch with some of those early formative experiences, but they really are the ones that matter. And it was no fun taking a puck in the face. And someone says to me, well, why weren't you wearing a face cage? And the answer is they weren't invented yet at that time. So I have a good excuse, but I still play, right? I'm in my 50s, and I just love the game and the camaraderie and the game within the game, right? If you're a hockey player, you know what that means. And it's just been that great constant source of joy in my life, and just the channeling the passion and the aggressiveness, and it's the best sport in the world.
Yeah, for sure. Which leads me to another chapter where you talk about being aware of spiders. So maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So a lot of the book, at least on the front end, is about personal development and self-discovery and those kinds of things. But there's a lot about relationships, and it goes both ways in terms of not only grounding yourself, but your interactions. And this is actually chapter 2, and it's the one that it's I almost didn't put in the book because it's more cautionary. It's like, which one of these isn't like the other? And that would be this chapter. But it's, I mean, Joe, there's some seriously hard living here. And it was something that I thought was important. And basically the Be Aware of Spiders talks about manipulators. And as much as we all are moving parts in terms of our character traits, looking for something where you can really just stop all those moving parts in one way or another as like a data point to understand things about yourself, understand things about people in terms of how you navigate those relationships. So in this case, you're looking at someone who either does or does not have the character trait to make a conscious effort to manipulate another person to get them to bend to their will, right? You either do that or you don't. That, it's not, that's what makes a conscious decision, right?
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't mean someone's a bad person necessarily. I mean, people have to deal with their jobs and, office politics and those kinds of things. And that might be one of the first things that come to mind, but they would never treat their best friends or their family that way. But even still having the capacity, the capability of doing that, yeah, that's notable. And that's really what it's about. So I definitely know, and of course, believe and know that most of us people are not like that. But what I've found in terms of people just reading the book, like this is the chapter that I really hear a lot about. Ironically, after almost not putting it in, and because people identify with it, they find these people, and it just really almost shines the flashlight on these kinds of people in their life, and especially like your inner circle, like your tribe. If you've got someone, you can't pick your family, but if it's a non-family member in your tribe, you have to really ask yourself, maybe I should be insulating myself a little bit more from this person and bring someone else more into my circle who's more positive and enriching rather than draining and manipulative.
Yeah, and and again, I could relate personally, especially from a corporate environment. Back when I first started my career, if you will, in business. Now that I'm out of it and doing my own thing, it's much more peaceful. Getting to make your own hours and everything. But it just reminded me of, I was new, I was fresh out of college. I think I was 21 or 22 at the time, and a guy took me under his wing, my supervisor or whatever. And it took me a while to realize, as we went to different meetings and different organizations within the company, that he was, kind of manipulating, some other situations to get things done quicker so that he could, look good to the big boss and everything. And,
Right.
I was so new and fresh. It took me a while to kind of see that. And, but it didn't really negatively impact me, but I just was like, man, he's crying wolf kind of all the time, trying to get all these things done when he's not following process and everything. And then one day he flipped it on me, and it was like, man, I'm working as hard as I can for this project, but it's going to take this long. And I think I might have mentioned, he faked a phone call like kind of right in front of me, and I was like, wait a minute, he's doing it to me,
Right.
So
Kind of like you're caught.
yeah,
Finally you catch them.
But
Right.
again, I'm young, so so that's just, especially with what your cause is, as far as like the intern program, that things like that are just so helpful for younger college kids, making their way into the corporate world to watch out for, because
Right.
you're probably gonna come across one or two of those in your career. So I'm glad
Well,
you put that in.
Yeah, lucky if it's that. And you're right. I mean, I really want to make it practical, and there is a lot of what I wish my younger self knew, because I am working with a number of college students through the experience with the Internship Institute, and it's not their fault, right? There's no substitute for experience. They're just not ready. Well, who's really all the way ready, but they're far short from ready to to go in that in the professional world in this example. And the other part, just to mention here, is again, to be practical. Well, if you're more of the prey, and if you find yourself being the prey, you might be somebody who is thinking, I really need to say more. I need to say no more often.
Mm.
And if you're somebody who's listening and you identify with that, then it's more than likely that someone's been taking advantage of you. And the worst part of it is that when you don't say no, whatever it is that you should have to, you feel terrible
Mm.
about
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah.
then that comes back on yourself, and just the negativity is so unhealthy. And so just say no, and work with that. And then the person who's trying to manipulate you will respect you for standing up
Oh,
and pushing
oh,
back. So that's kind of how you start to develop the ability, even if you're, oh, I'm non-confrontational and I don't want to, rock the boat or whatever, fits into that personality type. Just be a little bit other than what you identify as your personality type, so that you're protecting yourself from being manipulated.
yeah. No, that's great. Um, Now, and one of the things too I like about how you um, prepare the book or structured it is each chapter kind of layers on top of the next one. So it's like you're applying as you're talking through or in confidence, it bleeds into the next chapter, and then those two bleed into the next one. Just great transition as far as like just trying to get all this positive mindset of how to work towards your goals and everything, which leads me to chapter 3, where you have a great, it's a dose of prevention, and just talking about pouring kindness and belief into others, and growing together. And this was something that I've learned over the past couple of years is it is important that you have such a great tribe around you, because really, to be successful, you can't do it alone. If with even if you try, it's you need help along the way. And I love the letter you mentioned in the book to your son, as you went off to college.
Yeah.
That really is just touching, and it's great to leverage for any parent. But maybe you can speak to that.
It's funny because that's like the other thing I've been hearing a lot about too. I'm like, really, the letter? So, um, well, look, he's 19 now, and he would otherwise be at college, but of course he's home with everybody with COVID. But dropping off to his dorm, and that. I mean, I'm remarried now, but for 2 to age 15, single dad. I mean, it was just my life. When I wasn't working, I'm with my son Jake, and yet, of course, as our kids get older, and that you only have so much control anymore about being a parent, and the listening ability stopped. The patience to listen, that goes away. So it's not only actually that letter. A lot of times, and I don't do it too often, or hadn't done it too often, but when I really want to get something across to him, I'll write it out and I'll print it and put it on a piece of paper and say, read this, and then let's talk about it. But I know that at least he's forced to read it, and he doesn't
Right.
have to listen, because that's just, he's more of a visual person. So I'm just playing to, more of that strength. Um, but yeah, the packing all the life experience that you can, and what you need to do about going to college, and uh, having fun, but making good decisions.
Right.
Right. So like, if you have to highlight, if you highlight everything, Joe, it's like, well, whatever,
Yeah.
but what's the one thing that I really try to drill? It's just that. It's just make good decisions, make smart decisions, like a mantra, because that he's going to find himself in all these different circumstances, and he's not going to remember anything else from, what was it, 19 things or something? Like, I
Right.
didn't go back, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but make good decisions is part of that. So uh, right now he's making good decisions because he's home and staying on top of his classes. And hopefully everyone will get back to that, whatever that new normal is, soon enough. I'm sure that I want him to have that social experience, right? That was so important for, and is for, so many people.
Sure. And that leads great to the next chapter, which is perception is. And I love the quote where you say, just because something feels real doesn't make it true. And I think not that I want to talk about COVID too much, but I think again, how we perceive reality is kind of our reality. So I feel like again, if you're consuming too much news, and again, like right now, I'm not a doctor, you're not a doctor. And even the doctors go back and forth with what they feel is the truth versus not truth. So to me, there's no real truth out there that we can really grasp. So, you know, and I don't want to say let's not worry about it, but obviously there's tons of people that are affected by it and their families. But I think let's not, if you don't have somebody that's sick or impacted in your, I think it's safer to kind of steer away from that if you don't know the facts. And I think it's still unknown 100% what everything is right now. But
Yeah, it's interesting because I didn't really put it, after the book's out, right? I mean, it's printed, and as you start talking about it, and things kind of continue to evolve, and one of the things that I've been seeing a connection, for myself, is that we're dealing with these filters, right? So you've got earned confidence as a filter as to whether you're someone who's mindful, stays in the present, and doesn't let worry and anxiety drive you. And then we're about to get into things like mood health, right? And that's a big one right now, especially. But I mean, that's a no-brainer. Depending on our mood, happy, sad, or what, that those things, those factors, aside from our values and character traits and people who influence us, all the things that go into perception. And you're right. Everything that we encounter at any given time with all these filters and all these moving parts, we assume to be the truth, but at all times it's only an interpretation. So in some ways I look at that as I really need to give myself the benefit of the doubt. Like if I were to beat myself up about something, I'm not really prone to that, now, but in my younger days, of course. And then other people the benefit of the doubt when I'm not really sure. So and we're all human, right?
yeah,
So one of the things that was actually a late entry into the book, it wasn't in the ebook, and now the ebook's catching up. But when I got the print book, I added a couple of tools, and one of them is this perception snapshot, and it's really straightforward. I mean, you don't need to see it to understand that it's basically you have a left column, and you're taking these moving parts and you're isolating them one at a time. So in the top, you've got basic needs met, and then health, and then family and finances and work job. I mean, so you can, whatever that is for you, generally speaking, my kid's doing well. You just go down the left column, and to the right, it's positive or negative, and just take that snapshot just in any given moment with all these filters and even how you're, just how you're feeling. Would you put that in the positive or negative? And then the main thing is it becomes a gratitude exercise. So hopefully, your basic needs are met. Everyone's healthy. Like, right. Stop right there. Everything else is gravy, and
right.
just be be grateful, for that, and then go down the left-hand side. But then to the right, I can't say that I've never had everything on the left. I mean, everyone has
Right.
something on that right at any given time, but the main thing is to be objective and then put it in perspective. Like, let's just say it's finances, because that's certainly applicable for a lot of people right now. But how bad is it? Is it temporary? I've always, back to earn confidence, I've always found a way through. I may not even know exactly how I'm going to get past this, but I'll get past this. Whatever that is, I will do that. So just kind of back out from the things that are negative column and recognize that, the sky's not falling on you, and you're going to, you're going to have a roof over your head and food in the fridge or what have you. And the rest is just like, there's no other way but through, and just dealing with it as it is as much as you can in a matter of fact way, so that your perceptions aren't really driving your daily experience.
Yeah. No, and that's great. And for, and maybe, yeah, we can jump into the mood scale too. It's a good transition, minding the mood scale, where just on that note, because a few years back I was going through, and we talked about a little bit some anxiety and depression with the loss of my father, and I was overweight, and there was layoffs looming at work. So they announced it, but it was like 6 months before they were actually gonna lay people off. And I survived the layoff piece, but that window was really rough. And it wasn't until I turned and, and again, it was, when I hit rock bottom, like, all right, well, I know I have all these great things to be grateful for: a roof over my head, a wife, 3 beautiful children, but it's like, I couldn't wrap my head around it. And it wasn't until, I started really focusing on all the things I had to be grateful for, and then I just spent more time with the kids, and just worked on myself and my personal, development to kind of get myself out incrementally, if you will. But it can be difficult, but let's, talk about that, the mood scale, if you will, and
Yeah.
being self-aware of, how you're feeling, and trying not to put a couple days, well, that's what I was going to say too, is when I was kind of trying to get myself out of, my situation. If I took, even if it was a workout schedule, I was trying to work out every day or whatever, and even my diet, I gave myself like cheat days, and if that cheat day was the day before the cheat day was supposed to be, I'm like, all right, I'll give myself a break this time, and then tomorrow, instead of having my cheat day, I'll push forward. But I tried not to put two consecutive like bad days together, where I wasn't at least, trying to, work out or
Because
read
then
or
it
do all those mindful
steamrolls,
things.
right?
Yeah,
You get
yeah,
the momentum going the wrong way.
right.
I mean, you're so right. And we all go through those periods, and it just kind of almost like connects with what I was saying about Jake. It's, no one else is going to make us do it but ourselves. We have to kind of be our own parent in that way. And right now, with Minding the Mood Scale, and back to some of the things that you were saying, and as you know, I really felt it is important in having the personal conversation in terms of the tone and the way the book is written, to share personal disclosures throughout. One of which is that I've had to contend with depression my whole life, since at least, since my early teens. And I didn't exactly inherit the great best gene pool in this way either. It's in my family, so I've dealt with it in different ways. But it shapes you. It's something that you have to make sure that you're that much more vigilant in taking care of yourself, because in my experience, and I can only speak, like you said, well, we're not doctors, but you know what? Doctors aren't necessarily people who've experienced depression. so,
Mm,
so which is better, right? So to be someone who's experienced it, and at first, you could be in this low level and not even realize it until you feel like yourself, like the seasonal affective disorder. Like, oh, it's springtime. Like, wow, I really feel great. Oh, I was kind of depressed a little bit there. But when you are more susceptible to it, and a lot more people are right now with what's going on, it's like quicksand. It's you string one day, the next day, and another day, and then you really start sinking, and then it's that much harder to move. It gets exponentially difficult. I could tell you that for sure. So I have like that 2 to 3 day rule, where if I know I'm going to let myself have a down day, it's just going to happen. I'm going to get knocked down. Something's going to happen. It's rainy. It could be anything. And it could be 2 days. But if I get to a third day, just knowing how susceptible I am to sink, and how much it's worth not letting that happen, I just don't give myself a choice. So again, from a practical standpoint, I structure my day. I live by 3x5 cards, or 4x6 cards, or let's just call them index cards.
yeah, yeah.
So every day, I've got a new fresh index card, like it's a whiteboard, and I transfer one to the next, and I make it manageable, and I things I absolutely have to get done. And I'm like, I guess I'm parenting myself, but it gives me that sense of accomplishment
Yep.
and progress, and you just got to keep moving. So certainly, as exercise is at the heart of it all. We were joking earlier, right, about you planking and how you've been. I'm getting on a tangent now, so I
No, it's
won't.
good.
I won't.
Yeah.
But the joke was, well, Joe, I wake up in a plank. Like, you do? No. Well, yeah, I wish I could. So I just so admire that about you, and
And again, and just to, yeah, and just like, we talked, it started at 1 minute, so
right.
it's more of, the journey, and in making it a lifestyle versus, just coming out of the box. And I never even knew what a plank was, because until my wife was like, hey, why don't you plank with me? And that's how the whole thing kind of started, because I would run every day, and obviously play hockey, but it still wasn't, and that wasn't what affected me to be in good shape. It was the mindset that I kept incrementally adding time to it.
Right.
And over time, it's because I kept doing it and knowing, all right, I did 15, I did 130 last week. What's 15 more seconds? And then the
Right.
following week, and just building on that. And that changed everything,
You just
so
keep
just,
competing against yourself.
yep.
And so, right. So with the mood scale, and we are really talking about a graphic, it's almost like a thermometer. So you could define this as perfect balance or perfect mood, whatever that is, interpret to the individual. And the same thing goes for normal, happy, normal, sad. We had this range, right? Who gets to say what normal is, but there's a range there. And then what does it mean to drop below and then sink, into mild, moderate, severe depression? Or people, for example, who experience like a bipolar will elevate into a hypomania or a mania, or even, into a worse state than that. So it's just a good way to kind of keep tabs on yourself. And the 3-day rule is certainly one thing for me. Another thing, I've been thinking a lot about this lately with everything that's going on and people home, and the challenge that, change doesn't come easy. I mean, I've worked for myself and at home like for 18 years. So I just miss being in like coffee shops and bar. But for a lot of people, like this is a complete, where am I? Like their whole identity, I should be at the office right now. Like all those things, all those adjustments are straight up difficulties,
Yeah.
But one of the thoughts is, well, if you were to fast forward, let's say 5 years from now, and look back at this time period, how would you want to remember it?
Yeah.
Would it be that you made a pivot? Would it be that you had a gratefulness about having the enriching time that you have with your family that you wouldn't have otherwise? Or this being a good time to really put yourself on a journey of personal development, and have this time and space to do that. So, another thing is, even though it's remote, I've been reaching out to old friends, people I haven't talked to in years and years, and college friends. And now it's starting to evolve into these video social hours, happy hours. And, I never would have had those experiences, so it's just one of those things, like anything in life, but there's just no other way but through. And so the rest comes down to that decision about, and it's a decision to a large degree, how do you get through it?
Yeah. I mean, you hit it on the head, and for me, again, I think like it's like I've had the fortunate, um, I've been fortunate to go through this. Not fortunate, I mean, on the back end of it, pushing through, I got through it, where I'm at least with this situation, I'm able to because again, when I was going through it, I was watching, motivational videos that were, that helped me get through my workouts and all that. And then I got obsessed with them because they were so motivating and impactful that, the only TV I was watching was with the kids because I was so busy doing other projects.
Right.
So, so it shielded me from all the negative, the news and other things, and just filled myself with just positive, whether it was the music I was listening to, I kind of, even reset that. I was like, okay, some songs I can take off my playlist because they're not adding, they're not adding to, or fulfilling. And the same with like social media. It's like I mean, now it might be tough with everything that's going on, but you follow the things that are going to inspire you and keep you, at least away from going down a worse path, and if you're going to watch movies, try and watch some comedies. That would be my suggestion to,
Right. Yeah, let's just make ourselves sadder.
Yeah.
Let's watch Platoon and those kinds of things. No, but I mean, in thinking about it as you're describing it, it really, look, our days are like roller coasters, and we're going to be experiencing all different kinds of things throughout. But if again you come back to that snapshot about, am I doing something that's positive or negative in any given moment? So I sometimes get caught up watching news, and it's like, it's COVID 24/7. I mean, there's no oxygen in the media at all. And I'm just on a news diet. Right. So I really force myself to only allow myself to kind of peek in. I mean, what am I going to learn that's all that new?
Right.
Instead of, seeing, the counts go up or whatever. And I mean, it's terrible and it's hard, but, I'd rather be feeding my soul and doing things and, with my family and that are productive, and being here with you. I mean, I'm loving the podcast and just the opportunity. Honestly, I'm just so
Likewise.
happy to
Matt, likewise. I mean, this is great. And I think, again, I think we're both on the same mission where we're trying to help as many people as we can with the message we're getting out there. And going back to your point about, catching up with college friends and friends you would not have normally connected with. It's the same for me. And especially, I talked to you a little bit about reconnecting with my high school hockey line mate and college line mate, and in the past he just wasn't really tech savvy or whatever. He just wasn't on social media a lot, and with his practice, now he kind of has to go online. So it's been a great way for us to connect. And so again, there are some positive takeaways, and hopefully you know people can find that light, if you will, while we're in it.
Yeah, before we move further in, I do also want to mention that there are a lot of people out there who probably do already feel like they're in that quicksand and they're not able to move out of it, and it is that hard, and it is essential. You just have to reach out. I've had some very deep depressions, and you can really lose sight of, again, you're back to that perception. You think of rose-colored lenses and these being the opposite. You could see the exact same set of circumstances and things could generally be very bad, but there's still positives that you could see them and kind of manage them. But when you're depressed, it's like the sky's falling, and you know what? It's probably not.
Yeah.
And I've never seen the sky fall, but I mean, not to make light of it, the fact is, and one of the benefits of what's happened is that the access to healthcare in this way has improved, because now it's not, oh, I got to call some, like, I'm not calling some witch doctor and laying on some couch, right? Whatever those stigmas are, that were barriers, are much less now. It's a lot easier to pick up the phone and reach out to these services and be able to get online and connect with a professional who can really help you find your way. If you're not able to find your way yourself, and even like your family or your friends don't know what to do, or you don't want to reach out.
Yeah.
And no matter how bad things feel, when they feel that bad, they will be better. And that's really important. And if you're really having trouble even keeping yourself safe, don't do anything,
Yeah.
going to be hurtful, and reach out and get help.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do appreciate how you did put the hotline too in the book as well. I mean, I think that's that's really important as well. Yeah, so let's transition into
Sure.
maybe chapter 7, where you talk about being a life athlete. And we can touch on chapter 6 too, managing energy as well.
Right.
So whichever one you want to kind of take. And
Yeah, I mean, they kind of, like, these 3 chapters kind of go hand in hand. You're talking about, I didn't want to dance around, mood health and this topic. And I think a lot of people skirt it, and you just, why?
why?
Our
Yeah.
brains are part of the human body. And then the same thing goes into the managing energy in that transition, where it has to do with just personal management on one hand. If I'm, let's say I'm in the middle of writing a book and I'm staring at the computer and I can't find a cohesive sentence, for 20 minutes, maybe I should go do laundry,
Yeah.
right? That's just personal energy management. Then there's what we mentioned before about the responsibility we have and how we manage our energy and the transference that occurs with others. And now you're starting to get into some of the law of attraction stuff, but look, I think it's pretty evident if you think about it, and people who are into your program, I have to believe, recognize that energy transfers, and for positive and negative, and being mindful of that is so important. And then that transitions in being a life athlete, which is really also kind of that educational chapter about the things that you need to stay healthy around physical health and getting enough sleep and just cutting across the whole spectrum of hydration and nutrition. And then another main one, which is often overlooked, is stress and managing stress, because that's almost that's the reverse effect. So one of the other tools from the book, which is actually available outside of the book, is this self-care report card, which is an accountability tool, really. And it cites what is the expert recommendation for how much sleep you should get and how much exercise. It's that kind of thing. And then it just simply kind of puts it in a report card format with a little bit of a weightedness to it, so that working out is more important than than eating right. There's more points for working out. And then just it's real quick and easy just to keep tabs on yourself in that way. So just wanted to provide a whole way of coming at the whole personal health.
Yeah, and to touch on that a little bit, from a law of attraction and peace, to give you a kind of, when I was working at my last job, there was I was dealing with this issue that I thought was with this one person. It was like we're working on this process, and I'm like, I felt like this is the way it should be done. This is how it's always been done. And so my perception was this person just doesn't want to work with me here. And so I started talking to other people and like, hey, this person. And so then I started attracting people like, yeah, you know what, this person is that. And then I talked I was talking to my manager about it, and they said I don't think it's an issue with that person. I think it might just be with you and how you're interpreting said issue. And it really taught me to reflect back. And while I was going through this personal growth thing, I'm like, yeah, maybe it is me, because I keep talking about it and perpetuating it, and I'm attracting more people like kind of agreeing with me. And as soon as I stop that, I'm like, I gotta stop this and just go with the flow, as you put in one of the chat, or swim with the current, and just allowed the process to naturally just happen, and just hear that person out versus like trying to project like the what I thought was the right way. And as soon as I did that, people stopped coming up to me with the same thing that I was projecting, because I stopped projecting that, and so there is something there about, when you're like attracts like, and if you're negative and you spawn negativity, you're going to attract it. But the good thing is the opposite is true as well. So if you're in gratitude all the time and encouraging other people, people are going to want to be around you in a positive way, because they need to be fulfilled sometimes. So it's like you're putting out that positive energy. So it was just a complete mind shift there, and so it was great to see again in the book, and that's why again this book just speaks at least to me on so many different levels.
What's really interesting is that you made a conscious decision, and then you were able to observe the things that changed. It wasn't this like flighty gratitude, put it out, whatever comes back. You literally can point to the changes and the experiences that you had in shifting your mindset and expectations. And that's the coolest part of all. I mean, look, that staying in the flow, you could say, well, it's always there. And the more you practice gratitude, the more you can kind of connect with it. And the same thing goes with, by extension of that, into law of attraction and beyond. I mean, but it's also fair to say it's difficult to maintain. It's right.
Yep.
Just stay consistent. It's like you have to just keep forcing yourself to come back to it, because life is going to throw all these, whatever metaphor, the curveball, or, whatever you want to say, at you and take you off your game. But it's kind of like home base. Let's just stick with that metaphor.
Yeah.
And coming back to it. And the more you do that, the more you'll find things going your way.
Yeah, I think, like you said, the more, from my perspective, it's the more I've trained to do, when I had the epiphany as I was going through this, I've probably told this story quite a bit. But when I was going through it, it was like one day after maybe, I don't know if it was 2 or 3 months of all this practice that I didn't even realize I was really doing. Like, I think I had told you, one day I walked into work, and I was, I have a good friend that I would always bounce things off of, and he knew, kind of the stress and pressure I was under. And I said, I'm like, Tim, man, I'm not stressed anymore. Like, I feel like relief, and I can't explain it, but I had this just sensation of the weight was kind of lifted, and it lasted for, I want to say, a good, week or so, and then it dissipated. And it goes back to, and I was still kind of practicing, but it's just hard to stay in that wheelhouse because there's so many other different distractions and curveballs that are going to get thrown at you. But now at least I know, and I'm more aware.
Right.
I'm present and aware that when I do drift off or find myself not balanced, I'm like, oh, I got to take a step back and just focus on whatever that is, meditating, running. I had this leg thing for the last couple. I have a gluten allergy and gluten and soy allergy, and I kind of tested it a little bit. I'm like, yeah, I'll have some M&Ms and some peanuts and stuff, and I got this reaction in my leg. So I haven't been able. Today was the first day I ran in probably like 3 days. But what a difference, like the last 3 days have been not running just from a mood perspective, to now, today I was able to run and I feel like I'm on my A game. What do you think, Matt? No, just kidding. But
I can say, well, today, if I ran today, would I say 3 years? Would I say I definitely wouldn't be in the same boat there. Yeah, I think one of the things that really resonates about a lot of what you just said is that you proved it to yourself, right? That happens to everybody. I can't maintain this, mindset all the time, but through that experience, because you made that conscious effort, even if it was for that short period of time, for that week, it's like, okay, it's true. I believe it. And I have to, it's, you have to kind of keep going back to it and strive for it, knowing that it's not possible to maintain that all the time, but rooting in gratitude, there's the science is there, right? This is not a heady topic that has no basis. We're into quantum physics.
Yep. So, you talk about synchronicity in the book, and again, that there's so many examples I could give on my journey. I mean, we just moved from in the last 9 months from Connecticut to Florida. My wife has, due to a health issue, which she's kind of recovering from, and which was a great transition here. But there's so many different things that happen that we were open to as far as synchronicity goes, and coincidences, and that's what you talk about a little bit, like making coincidences matter. So it's like whether you believe in the law of attraction, or not, for me, it's like we kind of have faith in that there is something to it, and I think it's like the more you believe, the more things kind of open up for you too, because you're open to it. And that also kind of goes into your catching 11:11 in the next chapter. So these two chapters are pretty not exclusive. They're great chapters, and those two chapters, just the titles, where I'm like, I have to read this book, just because in our house, I told my wife a few years back about 11:11 and synchronicity, and now the kids, anytime they see 333 on the clock, 222, anything like that, we all shout it out, and so it's a cool game just to know. And for us, what we feel that means is, hey, we're on the right path in our journeys.
Right.
When we see that, all the decisions we've made up to this point, these are just reaffirmations that, hey, keep doing what you're doing, and good things will, hopefully follow. And obviously, there's going to be curveballs along the way, but keep going along that path.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of like that. There's like 4 chapters there that almost are in that whole category, and the beginning with the swimming with the current. And the one thing I'll say about that, and there's certain different aspects to it with, even with my relationship with my wife, Erica, and, who is the current having to do with what. It's kind of a, the domestic form of applying the law of attraction to have a harmonious relationship. But also there's that trusting your gut and your intuition aspect of it. And I've also learned some hard lessons around this, where if in trusting yourself, and it's really hard to put your finger on it here because we're talking about things that are a little less tangible, but if you experience that feeling of banging your head against the wall, or I'm pushing a rock, a boulder up the hill and it feels like it's going to roll back down on me, right? All these metaphors that apply, it's real. I mean, you have to ask yourself in those situations. It could be a job, it could be a relationship, it could be a conversation. But if you're really having that feeling, you really need to ask, well, this isn't going to go my way. What does it mean to turn around and swim with the current? So, different aspects there, and then flowing into making coincidences matter. Because I could probably have written a whole book on that, because
Sure.
a lot of fun things have happened. I'm sure a lot of people can point to those things, and I find them to be opportunities, the same as even the same thing as catching the 11:11, right? It's like a trigger. And what do you do when you experience, and that can only be for you, that experience of synchronicity, or of being in the flow of having something like a coincidence happen? And I think for a lot of people, it's like, well, I had no business having that conversation with that person. Suddenly here was the reason why I was talking to them, but then we went off this tangent and boom, right? Why did we ever go there? That was the coincidence. And what should that lead to? But ultimately, it's going to be whatever it is that you make of it, right? The coincidence itself isn't going to be like boom result. It's going to be, what do you do now as the opportunity to follow through on it? And did it mean anything? Well, you decide. Does it lead anything? Well, maybe, but it could be fun in that way too. And yeah, I definitely have a thing for 11:11. It's just, I don't know, it's been my thing. Again, it's like it's a trigger. It's a gratitude exercise. There's that I talk about in the book. Probably a little bit too involved to explain here, but it's one of those things that I really enjoy. I don't do it every time, but the more I feel like I am in tune with the things we just described, and being in the flow and rooting in gratitude, the more I experience coincidences, the more powerful they are. The more often you catch 11:11, right? You can't sit there at 11:10 wait.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
That's cheating.
that's cheating. There's no
Yeah.
cheating,
Yeah.
right? But you catch it like boom, and it's great for your kids, right? It's like it's a trigger. It's a moment with how fast our lives are going, or our distractions. Again, to root us back into the positive and be grateful for something. And that's a lot of what 11:11 is for me. It's also, my Erica is a veteran. That's one thing. And our wedding anniversary is 11:11.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Right. Which is no accident. Okay.
Yeah.
I have to, point to that, but it's, you're infusing, significance into different parts of your life. And that's just part of it.
Yeah, one of the things, for me, it's like on my journey, I have the Level Up, mindset journal, that I had a tool similar to yours where I wrote it down on a piece of paper every day, like my goals, and then a couple of gratitudes. And over time, I'm like, well, I keep writing down certain things. Why don't I just make it a PDF so I don't have to write the day and all this stuff? So I just have to write down my affirmations, my goals. And anyway, I created the journal. But one of the things for me, what's worked for me as far as setting the action plans towards my goal is only doing 2 tasks a day,
right?
Towards that. And I might do more, but I only write down the 2 that I really need to get done, that are going to make me satisfied, that I can check that box, and the endorphins go, hey, you're good for the day. You can go work on your flow state habits or whatever. But one of the great things about what I feel is, the catching 11:11 or going with the current is, a lot of times if I can't figure out the answer, or even like when I was working on the journal, it's like I wanted to get it done so fast, but I would hit these roadblocks, and I just like, I would kind of walk away and allow the answer to come to me in different other ways. And sure enough, the less like, I would write it down, as a goal, but the right answer would come when it's ready.
Right.
I didn't.
You
I
had to
didn't.
kind of step back and not go toward it, let it come toward you.
And the more I practice that, the more, answers just come. It's amazing, and it's. I think if people haven't experienced it, they might think it's woo or whatever, however they say. But I swear by it, and it continues, to happen. Even this podcast, is not an accident. Us connecting. So again, but you have to
you
be
had
open
me at
to
ice hockey, Joe. You had me at hockey.
Yeah. Same here. As soon as I'm like, I think we played Temple in the Nationals. We're obviously, I think we're 8 years apart maybe, but in Tampa in like '96, and that was at my Temple. Okay,
Possible.
and you guys beat us. So pretty
Well, that was assumed.
yeah.
I'm just saying. No. Hey, we'll have to lace up the blades. We're an opposite coast, but
Well, I was gonna say,
we'll make it happen.
do you guys ever play any of the pond hockey tournaments up in like New Hampshire or anything? You guys go to
Nah,
those?
it's
Nah.
beer league for me.
Yeah,
Bunch
yeah,
of my friends, we renting the ice, and sometimes I get sub into games and things with refs and have that more intensity. But I just enjoy the social part of it. Yeah. So back to center here. But you're right. You described it really well in terms of there's this threshold of personal experience about you either experience these things or you don't, and someone who does can speak to them. And if you're on the other side of that, be like, yeah, whatever, dude, or other than dude, and okay, but once you start experiencing that synchronicity for a period of time where you get that week where flow's kind of going for you and you're kind of straying from it and you just want to kind of do the things that get you back to it because it's there. We talk about it like it's gravity.
yeah.
So it's even if you're not aware of it all the time, it's there no matter what. So yeah, I mean it's we could do the whole conversation on this topic.
Yeah. Um, it, that's a good segue too into visualization, and amplifying gratitude and vision boards. And one of the things, when I was a youth player, this was probably, I want to say, late '80s, and my dad had talked about these sports psychologists that were working with professional athletes on visualizing, especially baseball players that would get into a slump. And it was like, visualize yourself hitting the ball, making contact. And this, again, this was like '80s, and it was kind of, I think, new territory. But my dad had said, hey, before the games, you should put your head down, focus, and, visualize yourself scoring or making that great play or whatever. And, going back to when I was 12 or whatever, I think, at the time I didn't, I didn't necessarily want to say I believed in that, but it did help me focus and whatever. But now seeing all the things that have happened from a visualization perspective, especially on my journey now, things are happening that, I've been visualizing. So, there's definitely some math to that. And two, I love how you talked about getting from point A to point B, starting at point B, which again, to me, is like visualizing that end goal. So
That's right.
All your different goals, what are those goals? And then reverse engineer how you're going to get there. Beautiful. I mean, maybe.
Yeah. Again, it kind of groups those two together. There's amplifying gratitude, which is really, it again is just an acknowledgement and it visits the different aspects of the law of attraction for what it is. I mean, I didn't obviously go too far in the quantum physics part of it because I have no ability to do that and I would never try. But it really just was to segue into that inevitability chapter that you're describing. And as the springboard for it is, well, what do you break the law of attraction down to? And for me, it's what you expect tends to happen. Right. So that goes all the way back into earned confidence and worrying, because if you believe in the law of attraction and you're a worrier, then you're contradicting yourself, because worry is about having an expectation about something you do not want to happen. So if the law of attraction is what just described, then your worrying literally could be causing.
Correct. Yeah.
It's a little bit, sounds out there, but when you talk about it in a practical way, it's true. And even worse if you're worrying about someone else.
Yeah.
So anyone who's listening, just don't do that.
Yeah.
And and then so over to and back, moving forward onto inevitability, a lot about the law of attraction, manifesting and things, it can be somewhat transactional in terms of just that synchronicity of people that you meet or just events, or right down to manifesting that parking space you needed, or right. But it can't really cover the things that are effortful. It can't cover the things that are around your why and your purpose and what you're trying to achieve. Let's see, if you're an entrepreneur, books don't write themselves. So how do you make these things happen while also relying on the law of attraction as a way to keep it of a straighter line. And so what you were describing, and it is, it's a little bit of a complex chapter, but you're looking at the dominoes, and basically let's put it in the framework of an entrepreneur and a business plan, and someone who is, oh, well, I'm at point B and I want to be here in 3 6 months and a year out to 3 5 and 10. Okay, well, instead of going from A to B, where there's all these different market forces and things that could take you in any number of directions and knock you off track, go all the way out to B as far as you can see it, and really be clear about it. And the at the heart of where these two things intersect with law of attraction and inevitability, and let's say applying it to something that's really effortful, is self-belief. You have to look at it as whatever it is that you want to achieve, in setting that goal and getting clear about it, you have to believe in it and expect it. Yes, in some ways as if it already happened, and put yourself in the experience of that, even though it's effortful knowing it hasn't already happened, right? Because you have to actually do the do. But it's that self-belief, so much so to the extent that it's inevitable, that it's already happened, but in the future, right? So you're working backwards from that. And we talk about that being like dominoes. And what I like about it is that it, at first, when you're plotting a point B, when you really have a big vision like that, like with the nonprofit, for example, I'm out many years, it's great to have that point B. But what matters when you're looking at the dominoes is not point B once you have it plotted, it's the tipping point. So at what domino do you get to that if that tips, the rest will fall? So in the example of an entrepreneur, that's, well, I'm profitable, I'm self-sustainable, there's no looking back. So, okay, you may know your point B, but now that you see where that domino is, you can start to figure out what domino that's closer than that tipping point will get you to that tipping point. That's about as far as I can go here.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, it speaks to the progress, how I'm like attacking these goals, and it's I see the vision, I know where I want to go, and I take incremental actions towards it, but not try. In the past, I would have tried to figure out the whole thing, and I'd have my blinders on, and if something came in and derailed it, I'd be like, all right, I'm done. Where now I see that vision, I take some actions towards it, and then what magically happens is the next thing opens up.
Right.
Then it tells me, oh, okay, I was going to do it this way, but now this just came into to the section here, so now I know what to do next. Now I know what to do next, and it's like it's
like removing dominoes out of the line in a way. And you're right. Like, I really love how you're talking about the incremental steps, because that is the key. And it's what's really important about seeing point B and the tipping point and working backwards to whatever you would say I'm at point A, is not to have blinders on so that you lose sight of the direction that you're going, but you're really only in the immediate time frame looking at the only next domino, that incremental step that you have to take to get one more closer, right, in that straight line. And you're right, things are going to happen that are going to help you either, whatever you want to talk about the metaphor. I think we've made it here.
There's a great video, I'm sure many people have seen it, but Oprah interviewing Jim Carrey when he manifested he wrote the $1 million check to himself. I don't know if you've seen that one, $10 million.
Right.
And he's like, well, and she's like, you got to take action. He's like, well, yeah, you can't just visualize and go eat a sandwich. You got to actually, do the work. And so there's definitely like more to it. You got to take action. And
I think it's the self-belief, because you're going to get knocked down.
Yeah.
I mean, I've beyond lost count, and I'm not saying I'm at the final domino either, to say the least, but it's really just a personal faith. It's a motivation for yourself to always have your eye on that and believe that it's
going to happen.
It's already happened in the future, right? It's inevitable. So every time you get knocked down, you already know where your trajectory is to aim again. So of course, I mean, I love that chapter, and it's really where the book culminates until you get into that into the whole take action, right? These incremental steps. And I'm thinking you're going to winning the battle within.
Yes, yes, yeah. Again, so that talks about giving yourself the benefit of the doubt, which I think leads back to earn confidence, but then also talks about paying it forward, and I was talking to my wife about this too, and it's just I love the fact that again I think a lot of times we're far along in our careers, and we might take for granted that the younger generation is looking to to elders for advice, and sometimes maybe they're not, but we do have that life experience, and it's just funny being in that position now to be able
It's
to
weird.
mentor. It's I never
surreal.
thought it. Yeah, yeah.
Surreal.
It's
Yeah.
like I'm my dad.
Like, I'm
but,
just me.
yeah.
Like, oh, right.
But yeah, I mean, I think giving yourself the benefit of the doubt, and and paying it forward. Maybe you could kind of speak to that from your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of get into karma there a little bit. I mean, you're keeping the thread around law of attraction, and in a business sense, while we're in that area, you're reminding, well, you could be someone who is spider-like. You might be manipulative, and maybe you'll make short gains, but more likely than not, there's solid evidence that being kind and being a servant leader uh, goes a lot further in the long run, and acting with purpose, as opposed to, hey, yeah, I mean, it'd be great to write that $10 million check and just try and draw that straight line, but what's the purpose and the fulfillment that's gonna take you toward that? It's interesting. So yeah, so winning the battle within, right? I mean, that's kind of like gets you to a bit of a 90-day plan. It reminds us not to be our own worst enemy, and it really goes for those incremental steps. So
Yeah, and I like how you kind of took your own challenge too, and documented how your own advice went for you, which was great as well.
I'm still at it, Joe.
Yeah, I think,
Yeah,
well, we all are.
walking the talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, I finally it's like going back to, and I guess it's 'cause it's in my head now, is part of that continuing, because the chapter after, right, winning the battle, which is that life enrichment action plan, because we want the whole book, everything we just talked about, is revisited in okay, here's an exercise. Who are the spiders in your life? Who are, let's revisit, earn confidence, and this, that, and the other thing, and checking in with yourself about your mood health and whatnot, but in a very manageable, baby step, manageable chunk kind of way. And in that way, it can be something like, if you're really into personal development, it's a framework. And if you're already into it, it's like a tune-up. And then it also kind of gives you that a la carte, like, okay, it's a good book, I liked it, but okay, let me just go and do this. So that's the nice thing. But then into the walking the talk and putting myself through that action plan, which is only 90 days, right? It doesn't stop. I'm now in that morning routine that I didn't really have completely disciplined myself to do. And yeah, if I don't do X, Y, and Z in the morning and start my day with gratitude and all the things I do, I don't know, get into my personal routine here, but you get the idea, right? Whoever's personal routine, I have to block that time. It just won't happen. Or the day blows by and I'm like, I can't get on the bike right now, or something. So you get it out of the way. It's a lot of energy management, but I realize that I have to be disciplined with alerts on my phone, essentially, to make myself do things.
Yeah, I know, for me, the morning routine is critical, and how I came about that during this too is the fact that, like, I would usually go for a run when I come home from work, but I noticed it was taking time away from the kids. So, and they were all young at the time too. So, that's, by the time you get done running, going for taking a shower, whatever, I mean, you're losing an hour and a half, maybe more. So I'm like, well, let me shift it. And well, again, where I applied the incremental steps was, I think I was getting up at 6, and then I just, for a week, I set my alarm for 5:30, and then a week after that, I set it for 5, and I just
Right.
incremental.
It's like the planking.
Yeah,
Mindset.
same thing. I'm
Right.
telling you, like that mindset shift, you can apply to anything. And again, that's how I'm getting these goals, accomplished. But and it's like I just want to share that because it works, so well.
Right.
And after trying so many different things.
Yeah, you can
Um,
tell like some of what's in there, right? It's just me psyching myself up, but out loud.
but
It's
but
like,
here but here's what's
go
great
ahead.
though.
Yeah.
You're giving yourself accountability because half the reason like I'm doing the podcast or whatever is because of a conversation I had with one of my friends. Shout out to Stephanie, who we both worked together, and she had left to pursue a different career, and I we would meet up, and I would just commend her for taking that risk to go back to school, and now she's in a job that she's enjoying, and a profession that she enjoys. And while I was telling her about what I'm trying to do, and leaving where I was, and she gave me some good advice, and she says, you got to put yourself out there and take a risk, and now I feel like I have to, because I have to be accountable to what I told her and what I'm trying to
Right.
do. So it's like I can't backtrack out of that now.
She's your accountability buddy.
Right, right.
So, and then when, it's, I mean, it sounds so trite, but it couldn't be more true. There's nothing like making yourself or do something, but you don't give yourself a choice, right? Nothing
Yeah,
like I messed it up.
yeah,
It's nothing like not giving yourself a choice to do something to make you do something.
yeah, yeah.
So, all right.
For sure. Now you have also a resource, a group that even after people read the book, there's a community group now that's on Facebook.
Yeah, that's just getting going. I mean, it's part of the the notion that with Z-isms, and it's one of the first questions. What is that? I mean, people think it's like quips. Obviously, we're this part of the conversation,
Yeah,
right? This is not a book
yeah,
of quips, but um, everyone has pearls of wisdom. Everyone, your dad, getting you to visualize, right? Things that are passed down from our parents and our grandparents, or just those things that you always kind of go back to, that you tell other people because it's comes from your experience. Those are yours. So in a way, I wanted to keep the book open ended and have this private Facebook group as a reader forum, which hasn't really gotten going yet. The book just came out. And I'm just kind of starting to keep tabs on there, but we get a chance, right? You're going to come in and we'll get it going. And hopefully a community will build, and people will exchange these kinds of ideas, and this conversation will continue.
Awesome. Matt, again, if you want to provide, the links to that, I'll definitely put it in the description
Sure.
and share it. I ordered the book, and of course, because of everything that's going on, Amazon gave me a delivery date of May 5th. So I can't hold up your book right now, but I will have it.
Oh,
Maybe you can hold it up.
I can help you out with that.
Yeah, definitely. And
So there you go.
awesome, guys,
So
get this book. I can't. Again, I read it in a week. It's a quick and great read. It's a great gift for family, friends. Matt, it's been such a pleasure, connecting, and I look forward to a long friendship. And one day we will hit the ice together.
yeah, definitely,
I
definitely.
said it.
I just want to see if you can back up your statements. I'm just saying.
Well, here's the thing, Matt. We're both centers, so we can't be on the same line, right? I mean, I'll
Why
play
would I
left.
want to be on the same line? I want to play against you.
Oh, okay. We'll go head to head.
We're
All right.
facing off, right? You're the other
Okay.
part of the face-off.
Okay. So I got
But
to
yeah,
bring a squad. Okay. I got to bring
bring
a
the
team.
squad. I really appreciate you having me, and having read the book and just being able to speak from the experience of reading it. People are just starting to get through it now, having just came out, and I, you just never know until people read it what they actually think, and it just really feels good and great to share with your audience. And from my vantage point, certainly they got a really good insight about it here, but anyone who just go on Amazon, go on my website, there's a sample there. You can read the first part of it. You'll know if you want to keep reading by getting it. So it's accessible, and the self-care report card is free on the site. So I'll say the site, if I
Yeah.
may.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because
Absolutely.
you have international listeners too, right? So I have to
Absolutely.
be respectful. So it
Absolutely.
is Z-isms,
Yeah.
that 26 letter, but they would say Z-isms,
Would they?
right? Yeah, it happens all the time. Like talking to people in the UK, Australia, Canada, it's Z everywhere else. Yeah, it's not Z. It might be Z for you, but here it's Z-isms with a hyphen.com, and hopefully people pick it up and join the forum and part of a community. Thank you.
Awesome, Matt. It's again such a pleasure, man, and look forward to talking soon.
Definitely, for sure. Thanks, Jeff.
Godspeed. Take care, man.